Miscarriage creates a variety of emotion, and there's nothing right or wrong way of that feel. So we'll be discussing how her organization Sanjeevani provides support and emotional support to women who are undergoing loss of their child. Stick around to this episode till the end to know more.
Friends, have you ever wondered that making a lasting impression online is similar to landing on the moon? If yes, we have a solution for you. Akulmak Genius program will help you prepare for your upwards trajectory towards success in the digital world. Our program consists of 12 unique tailor-made sessions of 1 hour each, spread over 6 weeks. Akulmek Genius program provide you practical knowledge about how to optimally use online video platform with lights, action, camera, as well as crash course in using virtual screens. The program also includes a session on the grooming and online etiquettes, which are important for running your online sessions and webinars. At the end of the program, our participants would be allowed to make their own videos, which will be published on a very popular business channel called Akulmak Live. This will provide global recognition to all our participants. If you like what you hear, then using the link in the description below, join the program straight away or visit www.akulmak.com and click on Genius Program to know more.
Welcome back, and today we have Pramila Kumar, who is very active in community services. She has her own organization where she takes care about the problems like isolation or women who are suffering with miscarriage and the emotional support. So we'll be discussing about this today. So I'd like to welcome her. Welcome to the show, Pramila. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Kanchan. I'm doing very well, thank you, and thanks for having me in your show.
Well, Pramila, you see, you had been doing and serving community in various portfolios, and one of that is that you also take care of the emotional need of women who are suffering or the aftermath, I can say, of miscarriage. And I think that is very, very emotional phase for any woman. So how really you console these women? And I think that would be very difficult for you.
So essentially, Kanchan, miscarriage, or how we refer to as early pregnancy loss, it's an emotional and traumatic time for a woman. And not only a woman has to go through the loss of the baby, but there are physical impacts of a miscarriage. And it also leads to relationship impacts. So there are different ways that the healing can be done because someone, going through miscarriage can go through grief, hopelessness, sadness, guilt, anger, jealousy, and intense feelings of loneliness. So what we recommend to them that there are short term and of course there is long term steps that they can be taken.
Well, somebody who, because it's sometimes, I feel personally, being a woman, it's sometimes so uncontrollable, the sorrow and the loss of a baby. And then, of course, people who also, I think, blame you for miscarriage because sometimes they say you have not taken care or something like that. So this situation is very critical for women. And when you talk about short term and long term, how you really initiate? Suppose if a lady is suffering from this kind of problem, I mean, I'll put it as a problem. How you initiate the guidance and recovery?
So essentially, when a woman goes through miscarriage, we have to allow her to grieve for the baby that she was unable to see. For whatever reason, the baby was within the womb and it just came out. So grieving is very important. Acknowledging the grief, acknowledging the fact that for whatever reason it was beyond the control of the would-be mother to ensure the birth of the baby. And also, sometimes we always recommend that the family, the spouse, or friends need to be there to support this person. Instead of blaming, let's fix it rather than blame or criticize or cause more harm to the baby. Sorry, to the mother, not the baby, to the mother.
Well, I can really understand it's very critical for any lady of this world when she suffers with the miscarriage. So, what are the precautions one should take? I mean, before we really get into this kind of situation.
Kanchan, I think a doctor can prescribe better to say what precautions are needed to avoid a miscarriage. But many a times a miscarriage does happen even if the lady has taken all precautions. And these are sometimes beyond the control of the mother. But the mother should always be feeling positive. No matter what has happened, it is not to be blamed, and there are always chances to have another baby. And to have another baby, the woman needs to ensure she's healthy enough to eating well, taking care of herself. They can go to a therapist, a support group, spiritual guidance, or simply take care and rest. These are some of the very important things which can be taken post miscarriage. And if the woman is having a spouse or a family members, they need full and unconditional support from them also.
Well, you and me, we all are mothers, and I want to know: is there any symptom of miscarriage? Can we really postpone the this kind of sorrowful situation?
So pregnancy normally is termed when a woman stops having her menstruation. Is an indication that probably the woman is pregnant, most likely. And the onset of menstruation is another big symptom that the pregnancy is no longer active. Uh, and when it happens, I think the woman needs to take immediate help of a doctor and make sure that she is not in a very agitated state, because that will all trigger the miscarriage to happen even more fast.
Well, now the question comes now how the family, as you mentioned, it's really very necessary that women get support of spouse and family. But what happens in the society where we live, there's a lot of people around us, and how really you guide communities to react to this, because this is, I feel, is one of the accident, and accident can happen anytime, anywhere. So how you really feel that community should come forward in support of a lady who has just undergone a miscarriage?
A woman who goes through miscarriage, it's a devastating loss, and they think that they will never get better and they will never recovery. So to the community, give lots of love to the person who had this accident, and help, get the support. Pregnancy loss can create a lot of sense of loneliness. Make sure that the community is around this person, taking care as if the woman would have delivered. Because we just want to also call out Kanchan, the toll the body takes, it's very similar to having a child. So even if the child did not survive, the body takes the same kind of toll.
Now, talking to you about your organization, Sanjeevani. So, do you have these kind of patients, or are you really go in your community by yourself to give support? And how it is? Do you enroll these kind of ladies and help them voluntarily?
Yes, so we have support groups. So, if a female has gone through a miscarriage uh, uh, by choice or by accident, so another woman who has the same incident, they can join the support group, and that becomes a big way of healing, because there are women who have the same emotions, same concerns, same grief, same sorrow, and they all together bring in hope to each other. Support groups plays a big way, and Sanjeevani is also geared to help these women as needed. A person to listen to, a shoulder to cry to, a hand to hold to.
So, do you provide any online support also somebody who is out of Chicago and need your support? Maybe somebody is in India. Though in India, what happens, we have joint families. So, rarely this kind of situation occurs. But still, there are families, there are people who are outstation, working, serving, professional, and they may undergo these kind of situations. So, do you have any online support?
Absolutely, Kanchan. We have an online support. We have two helplines, which is 24/7. Sanjeevni does get a lot of calls from India for different issues, and we also have a 24/7 chat. So people can reach anytime by chat and, of course, by phone to get the online support.
With another subject, and we will listen your ideas and support which is being done by Sanjeevni, and it was so lovely to talk to you again, so look forward
Likewise,
to.
Kanchan. Once again, thanks, Akulma, for having me.
Bye bye. Hello friends, welcome to Akulmek Live. I'm Kanchan Verma. Today we have a special guest. She's joining us from Chicago. She's quite vocal about the social issues in the communities. We'll be discussing a thought-provoking topic today in this discussion. So stick around to this episode till the end. It will be very interesting and again very informative for you. Welcome back, and today we have a very special guest with us. She is Mrs. Pramila Kumar. She is heading Radio Pani Puri, internet radio channel, and she is based at Chicago. So without wasting any further time, I would like to welcome Pramila. Pramila, welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you, Kanchan. Thank you for having me in your show for Akul Manch. Really delighted to be there.
Pramila, you know that you also run an organization called Sanjeevani, where you help people with little disorders like mental health or domestic violence and many more. So today we'll be talking about mental health. So what do you really understand by mental health?
So, Kanchan, we all have physical health, correct? So if we have a concern, fever, diabetes, heart problems, we all go to the doctor to take care of our physical health. Just like physical health, all of us also have mental health. And mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps us determine that how we are able to handle stress compared to whatever is happening in the world right now. So like physical health, mental health is very important in every stage of life, from kids, teenagers, adolescents, youth, and of course through adulthood. So like physical health, and the reason I'm mentioning physical health time and again, because then it's easy for the community to understand. If it's important to take care of physical health, it's equally important to take care of your mental health. So in the course of our lives, we all go through mental health problems. Everyone has concerns. Ups and downs always keep happening in life. Mood changes will happen. Behavior will change accordingly. So important thing is how well we are able to cope up with these changes determines how well our mental health is. So,
Actually, what happened lately, I mean, when the emergence of this COVID pandemic, we are hearing this mental health as a subject or as a disease more often. I'm sure that this mental health must be there before also, but now it has come
absolutely.
in a forefront. So actually, I just want to know how we really recognize or how we know that this person is suffering from mental health issues.
So, mental health conditions are complicated. They are not very simple as physical health. And there are many contributing factors environmental, organic, or genetic. And definitely, COVID 19 for the past 15, 16 months has had a major effect on us. So, when we are not well, supposing someone has fever, how do we understand? Maybe we will take the temperature. We can feel that this person is having, the body is feeling very hot. So those are some visible symptoms. But when someone goes through mental health concerns or if they have a mental health problem, the symptoms aren't very visible upfront. And some of the symptoms may have happened, feeling of fear, anger, sadness, being worried, being frustrated. And this can happen to anyone, but if this happens for a period of 7 days or more, then it's a cause of concern. Changes in appetite, energy, desires, or interest. Sometimes people start eating a lot, and sometimes people just do not want to eat at all. Difficulty, concentrating on making decisions, sleeping a lot, sleeping really less, having nightmares, physical reactions such as headaches, body pain, stomach problems, skin rashes, feeling hallucinated, hearing voices in your mind, feeling lazy, inability to do normal chores. These are some symptoms which as an indication of a mental health concern. But again, one concern I would like to say that someone going through this should at least observe it for at least 4 days to a week to say, let's go to a doctor and visit someone.
Well, it's really terrible, somebody who's suffering with these conditions, because I've heard that you are master of your own body and mind. And here we have a disease which is called mental health and which is emerging very fast, even in children. Now, what is the remedy for this?
One of this is awareness and recognition to decide if I'm not well physically, I will seek help immediately. I'm going to take medicines. If I recognize any of these symptoms of a mental health, it's always good to talk it out. Maybe go to a doctor, go to a trusted person, go to an organization as needed. Not every mental health concern will require a doctor or a professional. Some of it has different kinds of remedy. But the important thing is to understand it's okay that I have a mental health concern. It's not a taboo. It's not a stigma. I'm not weak just because I have a mental health concern. So, Kanchan, that is the biggest thing which people should recognize. The moment they recognize, support is always there.
Well, actually, yesterday we have discussed about how yoga can help in mental health issues. So I think that is also one, and I also feel that the awareness, as you mentioned, that it is very, very critical to have awareness about the mental health and how to really rectify this issue. So now in community basis, what we can do as a community for the person who is suffering, and is this mental health is curable? Can it be cured?
I'm just going to start with your last question. Is it curable? It all depends, when someone has started getting help. And it's not, the cure is not instant. It takes a period of, a treatment, and it could be psychotherapy, it could be any kind of treatment. But the first thing is to recognize and say, I have a problem. Let me give you an example, Kanchan. Deepika Padukone is a very big actress in India, a very well-known face. She was also suffering from mental health concerns when she was a young woman. She went ahead and got the help to be treated. So some of the things what we can help the community, Kanchan, is to accept the person, to listen to the person, help them cope with the different stresses of life. COVID is there. What can we do? Can we cure the COVID overnight? No. What we can do is offer emotional support, provide help to the community by medical supplies, food, etc. And then we should be also try to make meaningful contributions. Some of the other things what we can suggest is get professional help as soon as possible if you think you need it. Being connected with others, staying positive, being physically active. Yesterday was International Yoga Day. Mindfulness, physical exercises, helping others, getting enough sleep, getting good nutrition. These are some of the things which can at least improve mental health concerns.
Well, and the last, I just want to ask you a very critical question is that children, which are kind of, they are in the house, they can't go out, they have no social intermingling, and there are a few children who really face, they face vacuum, they face not meeting people, and all the time glued to online studies. And so I think what we can do if really children or one of these out of one child falls into this kind of disease of mental health, anything you can suggest for the parents to really do for their children?
Yeah, we realize, Kanchan, the last 15 months have not been the best. Parents are also working, they're at the home, kids are there, there's no interaction with anyone, and it has taken a toll on everyone. So these are some of the recommendations, especially for parents, because if parents can do it, it will help the children. Take breaks from watching or reading to news stories, give a break, because the more you listen, the more of this news affects you and causes negative concerns, symptoms. Take care of your body, play with the children, board games, not TV, no computer games. If it's allowed to go outside the house, for a walk or go into the terrace somewhere, do that. Talk to them, play cards, try to eat healthy food, and tell the children that they should explain to the children what the situation is. The truth, always the truth. Even if the parents think that the child will be affected, but it's always recommended to tell the truth. This is COVID, this is happening, people are being affected, we will get the vaccination, we will put on the mask. If the children know the reality, they are much better prepared to cope up with this concern. Again, in the house, avoid any altercations, arguments with the couple, with mom and dad. Avoid alcohol, tobacco, or any substance is abuse, and continue with a routine. We always recommend, just because the child is not going to school does not mean he or she is not going to take a bath, not change into proper clothes, not eat breakfast. So that routine is always to be maintained, and make time to unwind. Turn off the TV, cell phone, turn off the Wi-Fi at 8 o'clock at night. No Wi-Fi at home. So that is a time to unwind. And also we all strongly recommend, because everyone is in isolation, let the parents, the child connect with themselves and also with the extended family. So this way, at least, Kanchan, we've seen, there are some improvements, and kids feel better, parents feel better.
Pramila, it is always lovely to talk to you, and we'll be meeting in our next episode with another topic which will be thought-provoking for our audience. Till then, bye-bye, and you take care.
Thank you, Kanchan. Thanks for having me. Everyone, take care. Masks still important.
Modi inaugurated another application from Government of India called e-Rupee, which stands for E-RUPI. What is so special about this application that the entire top brass of the financial world is going gaga about? We want to analyze for ourselves. We will also discuss what is the basic difference between e-Rupee and UPI or Bheem payments. So friends, I'll be taking a very short break for some promotional messages, but I'll be joining back with this analysis. So friends, don't go anywhere. I'll be back soon. Friends, have you ever wondered that making a lasting impression online is similar to landing on the moon? If yes, we have a solution for you. Akulmac Genius program will help you prepare for your upwards trajectory towards success in the digital world. Our program consists of 12 unique tailor-made sessions of 1 hour each, spread over 6 weeks. Akulmac Genius program provide you practical knowledge about how to optimally use online video platform with lights, action, camera, as well as crash course in using virtual screens. The program also includes a session on the grooming and online etiquettes, which are important for running your online sessions and webinars. At the end of the program, our participants would be allowed to make their own videos, which will be published on a very popular business channel called Akulmac Live. This will provide global recognition to all our participants. If you like what you hear, then using the link in the description below, join the program straight away or visit www.akulmac.com and click on Genius program to know more. Welcome back, friends. Taking the first step towards having a digital currency in India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched an electronic voucher-based digital payment system called e-Rupee, E-RUPI, yesterday. The platform has been developed by National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, in partnership with Department of Financial Services, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and National Health Authority. This is a person-specific and purpose-specific payment system. It is so unique. But how does this e-Rupee work? E-Rupee is a cashless and contactless digital payment medium which will be delivered to mobile phone of the beneficiaries in the form of SMS or a QR code. This will essentially be like a prepaid gift voucher that will be redeemable at specific centers without any credit card, debit card, mobile app, or internet banking. e-Rupee will connect the sponsors of the services with the beneficiary and the service provider in a digital manner without any physical interface. Now the big question is how these vouchers will be issued. The system has been built by NPCI on its UPI platform and has already onboarded banks that will be the issuing authority. Any corporate or government agency who wish to utilize these e-vouchers will have to approach the partner bank, which are both private and public sector lenders, with the details of specific person and the purpose for which the payment has to be made. The beneficiary will be identified using their mobile numbers, and a voucher allocated by the bank to the service provider in the name of the given person would be issued and be delivered to that person only. So what are the use cases where all this e-Rupee system can be utilized? e-Rupee is expected to ensure a leak-proof delivery of welfare services. It is also be used for delivering services under schemes meant for providing medicines and nutritional support under mother and child welfare schemes, tuberculosis eradication programs, drugs, and diagnostic under schemes like Ayushman Bharat, child welfare schemes, and fertilizer subsidies, etc. The government also said that even the private sector can leverage these digital vouchers as a part of their employee welfare and corporate social responsibility programs. And as you know, friends, CSR is a big thing. Nearly all corporates spend about 10% of their profits into CSR activities across India. What is the significance of e-Rupee and how it is different than the digital currency? Well, the government is already working on developing a central bank digital currency, and the launch of e-Rupee would be potentially the highlight or highlighting the gaps in digital payment infrastructure that will be necessary for the success of the future digital currency. In effect, e-rupee is still backed by existing Indian rupee system as an underlying asset, and specifically for its purpose makes it different to a virtual currency and put it closer to a voucher based payment system. The Reserve Bank of India had recently said that it has been working towards a phased implementation strategy for central bank digital currency, or CBDC. We will make a specific fully dedicated video in future to explain CBDC very soon. But for now, I think this is very exciting because now India has taken one step closer to having its own digital currency completely supported by the Central Bank of India. And this e-rupee is very exciting because now the sponsorer or the donors will exactly know how the money is being utilized, and the beneficiary is also named in the system. So friends, do write in your comments on this one, and I'm very excited about this changes that the Modi government is doing with regard to engaging new and new ways of deploying the digital currency systems in India. So friends, I will end my video here and look forward to your comments.
Hello friends, welcome to Akulmek Live, and today we have a wonderful guest. She is Ritu Gupta, and let's welcome her first. Hi, welcome to the show, Ritu. How are you doing today?
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you, Kanchan.
Great. And today is Janjatiya Divas, as you use today, and it is quite an important day because today is the birth anniversary of Birsa Munde, who is a very popular tribal leader and who has done so much for Munde community in Jharkhand. And Ritu, that this celebration is also done not only in Jharkhand but other states also. So, first of all, I would like to ask you how are you doing today? And today, since it's a day, so we'll be discussing about Birsa Munda.
Yes, absolutely fine. Thank you. I'm fine. And I think it's a very good initiative of the government of India that they have today declared the birthday of Birsa Munda as the tribal day, because you know the tribal community, it needs to get uplifted also. It needs some kind of motivation also. And why not? Why not identify a person from their community who has fought in the freedom fighting of India, who stood against the Britishers, and who also spoke about not to get into conversion, because you know the Britishers, they were converting the Munda community into Christianity, which he raised his voice about. He said that this is not right. We should be in our own community and let's
So we were talking about Birsa Munda, and you know that beside the tradition and culture, he made it sure for the community, for tribal community to enhance their past, to enhance their culture, and that is a big contribution from Birsa Munda, because in ancient time, and not in ancient time, but about when the Britishers were ruling and we were not free, and that point of time, somebody who raised from such a small beginning and rose to a level where people started saying him as a god and comparing him as a god. So, what is your, I mean, thought process when you see these kind of people, and what is their contribution? Let our viewer listen from you. What you think about this day and this person?
I think Ms. Birsa Munda came from a very humble background, and you really need to have gut, you really need to have determination, and you really need to be very clear in your brains, because you know, a person who is made of steel and who's very clear what he or she wants to do can only do such a thing. Because you know, ultimately he was arrested and he died also jail, but then he had no personal life too. His only focus was community, and his community people, the Munda community, looked up to him as the god. Although he was a normal human being, but then they looked up to him as a god. And you know, during that time, the Munda community, some people started thinking that it is a religion. Although it's not a religion, it's just one of the caste of the tribal community. But then he did so much for the community, he raised so much of awareness among the youth of the community that they should not fall for any kind of luring by the Christianity to change into their religion. So I think the person has to have grit during that time when India was not an independent country. It was being ruled by the Britishers. We had British Raj. So after so many years, the Munda community has suddenly become very popular because of the present government and the music which is made in him. I think it is a very good start by the government, because you know, the people from this community, the youth from this community, they are being shown a way that where they can get education, they can, you know, uplift themselves, they can do much better things in their life. It's a very good thing, and the all initiative for this goes to Birsa Munda himself from the community. Because you know, even now the tribal communities in our country, they are not doing so well, which they should have been doing. Very few people from the tribal community, they get out of their villages, out of the interiors, get do the mainstream job. Otherwise, if you see, the most of the tribal people, they are very poor and they are only into agriculture. They are not that's not even the, you know, the modern scientific agriculture which they are doing. So I think now the things will change. Now the
Yeah,
things
that's
is going to change.
definitely actually.
Yeah.
And Birsa Munda has a name when we're talking about freedom fighters in Indian history. And apart of this, the kind of government he declared as Jan Jatiya Devas, which is very, very important,
Yes.
because now there is a consolidated uh, the history, the kind of work this person has done for the community, and of course for the freedom struggle of India. And though his birthday is being celebrated in Ranchi for many years, but this kind of weightage, this kind of importance which is being given by current government is something which has to be appreciated. And what I feel, Ritu, is that time has come that all freedom fighter who's being forgotten by us, who we don't see their name in our textbook. I think we
Yes.
should come out with these kind of contribution of these people who's being ignored so far. So, what your idea about this?
I absolutely agree with you. There are so many freedom fighters who have been ignored, or their name I mean, we don't really know their names, and we should know about them. The kids who go to the schools, they should know about the history of India. They should know about the freedom fighters, the people who really fought the war. And you know, we the normal people, we should also do some kind of research work, and should, you know, we can start some kind of small community work in their name, so that the future
Yes, actually, definitely, and I think freedom it is not. We always think that freedom is very cheap. We are free, so that we don't count the value of freedom, because freedom always costs soldiers. It also cost the freedom fighters who has given, who has initiated, and their contribution only we are breathing freely nowadays. So I think this is a good gesture which is done by the government, and I think we should cooperate. People should appreciate, and they should recall on the
Yes,
right.
I agree with you because it is very important that their name taken. Everyone in India should know their name, and I think there should be chapters in CBSE. The syllabus should be changed where their names should be indicated so that the kids then get to know about them. And I think it's a very good initiative that a museum has been named in Birsa Munda. In the same way, we can start schools, hospitals, we can start small community programs also in naming after various freedom fighters. So this way, they are not here, but their name stays alive among us, the Indians of the free India.
Yes, actually, I also want to inform our viewers that there is a statue of Birsa Munda which is being scheduled. It will be built it will be placed in Ranchi. A part of this, I think some minister was also proposing a film. I think again this is a good gesture, and today is the day
Yes,
you and me, but everybody should feel proud about the people who are associated with our history, with our
abs-
culture, with our freedom struggle, right? So,
yes.
last thoughts about Birsa Munda or anything you want to contribute in today's discussion?
Also, what I want to just add on to something that the people they should take lesson from him, the lesson from his doings, because in present times also we need to really do something for our country in whatever manner we can do. We really don't need to spend money, but by giving our time, our effort, our brain, the strategies, we can make changes in the country. And in the same manner, the educated people like you and me, we can contribute towards the upliftment of the society, and we can also let people know about the tribal community. That's what the government of India they want, that people should know about the tribal community, because tribal community is basically a very rich community. The handlooms, the handicrafts, the decorative items, they all come from Jharkhand, and all these places are made by these people which decorate our living rooms. So we should know that how rich this community is and their contribution towards the culture of this country.
Yes, and with lot of respect and maybe a naman to this freedom fighter, I'll just end today's discussion, and we'll meet again with some important and interesting discussion next.
Absolutely. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much. Thank you.
Yes, so we were discussing about Birsa Munda, and today is his birth, and it's a good day which is being initiated by India. It's good we see these kind of profile on our television and get to know about them, and I think it's a matter of pride for all of us to remember.
Good morning, friends. This is Chandra from Akulmac Technologies, and this morning I welcome you graciously to our show called Top Brass Likeable Leaders. Good morning, friends. This is Chandra from Akulmac Technologies, and I graciously invite you to our show about skills gap that exists in India. And today we have very eminent personality on our show to discuss about this particular aspect. That is Mr. Naval Kant.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmac Technologies, and welcome to Legal Matters. Today, we would like to discuss about the right of freedom to protest. and in the wake of what happened on 26th of January 2021. To discuss this further, let me invite my friend, the very popular advocate, Mr. Jeet Bhatt from Ahmedabad.
Thank you, Chandrakant, for having me and for this discussion. I'm looking forward for this discussion.
Yes, Jeet, in fact, the horrific pictures of January 26th of 2021, when the flag of India was meddled with and the national monuments were desecrated. While the protesters have the right to protest, but what was really going on from the legal standpoint? You can, tell our viewers a little bit more details about the freedom to protest and what is the, acceptable freedom to protest.
Yes, absolutely, Chandrakant. With respect to what happened on 26th of January, we saw several violent instances where the police as well as the protesters clashed and there were injuries on both sides. So this raises some important questions on what are the rights or the constitutional fundamental rights of a citizen with respect to protest, and also the fundamental rights of citizen for a proper and public order, because it is very important that protest should not turn violent, and therefore there are reasonable restrictions imposed upon this right to protest and raise objections with regards to the stand or action of the government. So first of all, right to protest is a very important right under the democratic setup, and it is guaranteed under the Constitution under Article 19, 1A, B, and C. So there is no such word used as protest, but what the Constitution provides is the freedom of speech and expression, also the freedom to assemble peacefully without arms, and also to form unions. So these three fundamental rights of citizens construed together give a very important right to the citizens to protest, raise objections, resist, or even show its dissent of any action of the government. So therefore, in a democracy, as you are aware, there are several voices. And India being such a pluralistic country, every part will have its own concerns, issues, and every citizen is given this right to protest and voice its opinion. So basically, it's a very important democratic and civil right provided under the Constitution, under Article 19, 1A, B, and C. But also, Article 19 is subject to certain restrictions which are provided under the Constitution and Article 19.2 to 19.6. So it provides and gives the power to the state to enact a law which reasonably restricts these fundamental rights of the citizens. So, with respect to what restriction it provides, is that uh, in order to secure public order, in order to secure the security of the state can impose certain restrictions which have to be reasonable upon these fundamental rights of the citizens. So, therefore, we see that the Code of Criminal Procedure, the Indian Penal Code, the Police Act provides for powers and mechanisms and procedures where such rights of persons who are protesting or expressing or assembling or even forming union can be restricted, and the proper mechanism is provided. With respect to what happened on 26th January, we see violent protests happening. Also, the public property was damaged. So this raises an issue as to what extent these fundamental rights are given to citizens. But with respect to that, there are several decisions of the Supreme Court on this issue which I want to highlight. The first, which I want to point out, is the judgment of Ramlila Maidan incident versus Home Secretary Union of India, wherein the Supreme Court recognizes this right to peacefully and lawfully assemble together and to freely express oneself, coupled with the right to know about such expression, which is guaranteed under Article 19 of the Constitution. Such a right is inherent and is also coupled with the right to freedom and liberty, which have been conferred under Article 21. In the Ramlila Maidan incident, what had happened is in the night when the protesters were protesting and sleeping, the police officers had tried to disperse them and done a lathi charge and injured several protesters. With respect to that incident, the Supreme Court said that no, this is not fair and this is not proper mechanism of restricting somebody's fundamental right. The Supreme Court also recognized that right to sleep, peacefully sleep, is also a fundamental right under Article 21. And therefore, you cannot disturb someone in such odd hours and uh, do a lathi charge and use force and disperse the crowd, because they are exercising their fundamental right to sleep, and also they are exercising their right to protest. So police, that was an excessive force of police, and which the Supreme Court said was not proper and constitutional. And even the use of force should be within the bounds of the Constitution. So there are restrictions upon the state in order to use force. But with respect to the right of the protesters, it is also clear that the fundamental rights are not just of the protesters, but also of the residents of the city. The people living in the city also have the right to have a proper public order, public decorum, morality, decency. And the rights of others cannot be trampled only because the protesters want to protest on the streets. So therefore, the Supreme Court in the matter uh, in the judgment has held that the protesters should be allocated a proper place to protest, and the protest should happen peacefully. And in that place, allocated place, should be such that that should not disturb the proper flow of traffic, proper flow of movement of other citizens. So therefore, considering these restrictions, the right to protest can be continued. But on 26th January, we saw that the protest were disrupted. There was use of excessive force by the protesters. They had assembled by having arms. They did transgress the fundamental rights that they had, and they demolished the properties, they desecrated the public property. So therefore, we saw that it went out of hand. And in exercising their fundamental rights, they overstepped it and violated the fundamental rights of others. Because Constitution clearly demarcates and provides that my right ends when your right begins, and your right ends when my right begins. So this demarcation is constitution and has to be respected by every citizen. In fact, it is a fundamental duty of every citizen to maintain peace and order. So therefore, the protesters also not just transgressed their fundamental rights, but also violated the fundamental duties which are enshrined under the Constitution. And though everybody does talk about the fundamental rights, but very few talk about what are the fundamental duties that citizens have in this country. And if we maintain the fundamental duties, we comply with them, and we follow them properly, then I don't think this incident could have happened. So now the next step which comes is that how to fix accountability and whom to put the blame and what the authorities must do in order to ensure that the damage that has been done uh, can be properly compensated. So with respect to that, not just there are the prosecution can be initiated against the provision provides that there can be vicarious liability fixed on all members of the unlawful assembly. But also there should be provision which provides for compensation and damages from the leaders who have permitted such violent protests to happen. That is what the government should aim and do with regards to fixing accountability and also seeking those who have been held liable.
So, Jeet, thank you very much for explaining this in a legal perspective, and also very clearly you have defined what is the right and what is the duty for all citizens to follow, and every citizen is equal in India. So, while this is well known, and especially all of us study this very early in our schools, I think this is taught to us on in the civics chapters in fourth or fifth standard. So, when we are like 6 years old, from that time, all Indians are aware of rights and duties. Uh, but at the same time, I'm very surprised to see the leadership of these protests are asking people to violate the legal norms, the constitutional duties right from the beginning. What do you have to talk about those things? You know, these people who are educated, very well off, they have the crores of property to their name, and yet they are asking these poor farmers to violate the laws which are laid down as a constitution in the constitution for all citizens to follow. Like to know your opinion.
Yes, Chandrakant. So we see that uh, the leaders uh, don't lead their members in order to ensure that a peaceful protest continues, and they want to use force. But that is not how a protest should happen in a civilized and a advanced democratic country like India. We saw protest in Hong Kong for almost a period of more than a year, uh, but it did not result into damage to public property to such an extent. The peaceful protest, in fact, even the Supreme Court, while granting stay of these farm laws, also appreciated and recognized that the protests that were happening till date were going on very peacefully. So even in fact, what has happened is on 26th, they themselves have turned this peaceful protest into a violent protest. And violence is not an answer in any manner that can lead to a solution. So they should have shown some restraint. The leaders should have shown restraint and assured that the protest should run peacefully. In fact, what I am aware of is that the police authorities, while granting permission to protest, and also there was a condition that it should not result into public disorder. But they have violated the terms and conditions of the permission granted and transgressed them. So therefore, yes, so the leaders are to be blamed, and the accountability has to be fixed, and proper compensation should also be, orders should be passed to recover the amount of damage that has been done from these leaders.
Yes, and again, surprising thing, Jeet, is that they still continue to violate the law. They have not vacated the street, even though the government of India had provided them a separate area where they can continue their protest. They have refused that. They have refused the advices given by Supreme Court of India. They have also refused the government initiative. 11 talks have happened, and now after committing such a big crime, which is our national day. It's a pillar of our democracy, which we celebrate on Republic Day. They spoiled the name of India. They brought the Indian fame down, and they still continues to violate the law. What do you have to say about that?
Well, Republic Day has its own significance because on 25th, 26th of January, the Constitution of India came into existence. So that day, we became a republic democratic country, and that no citizen should ever forget. In fact, the Constitution, which provides them this right to protest, also provides certain safeguards and restrictions upon this right to protest, which the protesters should not forget. Also, with regards to fundamental duties, which is a chapter incorporated under the Constitution, which provides that it is the duty of every citizen of India to safeguard public property and to abjure violence. So this is a fundamental duty prescribed under this constitution. And despite this constitution coming into force on 26th January, such protest violating not just the fundamental rights of others, but also not respecting the fundamental duties of every citizen was something which was not called for and should have been avoided.
So, going forward from here, what is the way out for the protesting leaders? Because they have violated all norms of a democratic setup. What they should be doing? I'm not saying that they should stop their protest. They should continue. But what is the remedy for them to correct what they have been doing for last 2 months?
Well, the petitions are already pending before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has constituted a committee. So, therefore, they have to wait for the committee to give its report and thereafter the Supreme Court to hear the matters. They may protest peacefully, there is no restriction on that. But then, now with the matter being pending before the Supreme Court, they must respect the Supreme Court and wait for the decision to come from the top court of this country.
Fine, Jeet. I think you have very well explained the whole scenario for the benefit of our viewers, and I'm sure most of us are already aware that the some blunders have been committed, and I think people who are doing all this needs to correct. I think the message should be loud and clear that they should stop violating the law and set an example for all of us. So thank you very much, Jeet, for coming to the show today, and we will catch up again next week with something even more interesting.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Bye bye. Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmak Live. My name is Chandrakant. We are now experiencing the second wave of COVID, and a lot of people have, got infected, and a lot of people got cured. The medical establishment facilities are running at full capacity at the moment, and because of this, doctors and the medical staff do not have time on their hand. At the same time, there are scarcity of supplies of vaccination, oxygen, and so on. So there are a whole lot of issues which are happening because of the number of patients reaching hospital. And in such a situation, what is the effect of the mental well-being of everyone, doctors as well as patient? This is something that we will discuss today in our show. But before that, a word on our giveaway. We have some unique Akulmak memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmak gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmak and smash that like button. Now let's get back to our discussion. Hello friends, today we will be discussing about the mental well-being from our guest Dr. Pooja Bedi, who joins us from Shimla. So let me present Dr. Pooja Bedi to you without further ado.
Greetings, CK. Hope you are doing fine. And this was nice to catch up with you.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja, for asking. In fact, everyone in my family is doing fine. All the adults have been given first jab. We are waiting for the second jab. I think we are waiting for the call to come from the hospital now after 1st of May. Otherwise, we are maintaining social distancing, following all the norms. We are all doing fine.
Great. That's really nice. Nice to hear.
Well, doctor, I think I want to ask you a very specific question today, which is related to the mental health, mental well-being of everyone, which is related to elders, middle-aged people, and also kids. We have seen the first wave. We have now seeing the second wave. And since you belong to the medical fraternity, you meet so many patients and doctors, and you have a lot of friends all over the place. What is the kind of difference in attitude you have noticed between the first wave and now?
Let me first start the conversation, CK. It's a wonderful question. We are very well familiar one of the term that is adaptability. This is how and why the human race has been surviving and is still in the process of surviving in this pandemic. But during this adaptability of the phase, I myself have seen two drastic bifurcations in the attitude, you can say, of the human. When the first wave was there, and now we are undergoing the second wave of the COVID. In the first wave, we were more scared, we were more disciplined, we were more, taking precautions, we were getting ourselves more aware, we were more adaptable to many of the norms that were set by the government and many other factors. But when we are going through the second phase of the pandemic, there's a total reversal of all these things that have happened. You will see people have become less scared. That is fine if they are aware and they are following all the protocols. It is very good to stay aware. We have become less disciplined when it comes to wear the mask in the proper manner, to follow the social protocols, to follow a diet, a regime that we were following in the first wave. Somehow you can see the dip has been there in the second wave as far as the attitude of the individual or the concerned population is in question. But the only thing, CK, that has not changed, in fact, we are just seeing a soaring in this, is the mental health issues. In the first wave also, we have seen number of cases of mental health issues. In fact, I would like to do a study sooner or later in which I really want to calculate the number of mental health issues as compared to the COVID, because people who were having COVID were having a mental health issues, people who were not having COVID were also having mental health issues. They were scared, anxiety, irritability, and many other this peripheral kind of mental health issues were popping up. So the number of mental health issues have not changed. It's the same in the first and the second wave. But yes, correctly mentioned, attitude of the individual, or you can say the population, has changed drastically. So my humble request is there to follow a prescribed protocol, prescribed diet, a regime is very, very important to if we really want to combat this particular situation.
Well, doctor, usually when we go to hospital and we consult our doctors, they are very, very humble and very polite. They are usually listen to your problems very calmly. Even sometimes, patient vent out their anguish. They feel that, hey, you're not giving me right medication, or I'm not getting cured, or whatever you gave me has not worked. But I have never seen in my so many years of 20 years of going and meeting the doctors, I've never seen any doctor losing cool. I think they have been trained to do that. But something has happened in the last 15 days. There is so much of pressure that every doctor is in so much stress, and they themselves are losing cool. So I think the both parties, which is doctors and patient, are losing cool on each other, which is very, very different, which we don't see usually. What is your opinion on this observation of mine?
Yes, CK, it happens. If you overuse a generator till the time it is giving you cooling by different electrical appliances, it is absolutely fine. But if you are going to overheat it, it's definitely going to have some kind of repercussions. So the same thing is happening. It's not that it is coming from the patient side. What I feel like, it is not that we are not used to the rush of the patients in the IPDs, OPDs. They're pretty used to that. So this is not a big question. But the question is, when you don't have the resources, so if you don't have the resources, how are you going to cater for the people who are actually looking at you for a need? And if you are not able to fulfill that, it somehow definitely will generate some kind of anguish. So the conflict, the reason behind the conflict for whatever is happening between doctor and patient is not because between them actually, it is the non-availability or the very low amount of availability of the resources in terms of, you can say, oxygen supply, in terms of vaccination, so and many other things. PPE kits for them, the kind of hygiene facilities they require at their front, those are lacking. So all these factors which are contributing is actually leading to this kind of conflict. But there has I don't think there has been a direct conflict during this pandemic between the doctor, physicians, with their patients. This is the profession, and we should be dealing with it in a more gentle and a humble manner. But it's a resource and resourcefulness which is uh, doing all this stuff.
Yes, doctor, I think I agree with you because there are overwhelming crowd at the hospitals, and different hospitals have different processes to manage the crowd, crowd management and all that. Eventually, everything lands at the table of the doctor, and doctors are aware of the situation more than the patient because the background of what is going on. Doctors are much more aware. They have a network, so they feel sometimes helpless, and because of that they are losing cool, it looks like. But patient must also keep calm because this is a pandemic that we are dealing with, and it's an act of god. It is something that nobody has control. End of the day, even doctor has come from us only. We are all human beings. So if I'm a patient, doctor is also a human being, so we have to treat the doctor also like a human. Considering all these things, what is your two letter mantra for patient as well as doctor to maintain their mental peace?
CCK, first, for doctors, though, it's very difficult for me to recommend anything, but only to have patience. We have to be very precise with the kind of conversation we have, since we don't have time so much these days. So it has to be very precise, of a shorter duration. And yes, some kind of resources are to be made available by the government and at the end of the hospital itself and the pharmaceutical companies. For doctors to maintain peace, they don't have time for that, CK. At least till the time we don't see the peak of the second wave, which is expected to come in next couple of weeks. So somehow we have to be on our toes, and which is pretty fine. This is what the soldiers have been doing it since so many years, for our country. So we can be on our toes as well. So it's not a big deal. Coming down to patients specifically, see, first, CK, the factor is the knowledge, the kind of knowledge and the kind of correct facts are there in it. Till the time the correct facts and the logical facts are there, it is fine. But when they are mixed with the unlogical and the things which are more mythical in nature, they tend to somehow generate some kind of irritability and anxiety in the patients. So my request to all the people first is to please be nicely aware of what exactly is happening. Be prepared for the unpredictability that is happening. The only thing we can predict these days and for next couple of months is the unpredictability of the pandemic, how it is going to go into what way it is going to turn out to. So be aware, please be very well prepared for the kind of unpredictable predictable situations that are going to come. How we can handle is a thing. Now, CK, when the first wave was there, we were adapting in nature. Now in the second wave, we have already adapted to the changes. My own parents and in-laws were not very apt with the virtual media usability, but now they both are actually, at both the ends they are very apt calling on WhatsApp or Zoom calls or any virtual media calls. So now we have adapted with the time span of good 1 odd year. So when talking specifically of the children, the schools are open, so fixed scheduling, a good timetable is to be maintained. See, 4 5 hours are already gone in the school, then homework consumes some time. So as a parent, it becomes a responsibility to give them some time for the recreational activity as well. The exams times are coming, we can't just push them for one odd thing, studying all this thing. But the social factors, since the physical communication is also not there with the kids, so it becomes a very crucial responsibility on the parts of the elders in the family to look after children in a manner where they can actually spend a good quality time on recreational activity. CK, if please I may add, one of my friend's son is in class 10 and he has already got one odd certification animation. So this is how the kids are smart these days. So it's a very good time where we can adopt to a skill, and since the time is there with us, we can actually make it applicable as well. So I highly endorse to please go for kind of skill development, and there are government portals actually. If I'm not correct, I think Swayam portal is there by the government, in which it is so cost effective. Some of the courses are in fact free of cost. So and many more sites are there from where they can do the skill development probably after seventh or sixth class onward. So this is how they can actually engage themselves mentally, physically as well. But on the physical aspect, it's very crucial to make them do some kind of exercise and meditation. Very, very important to generate the patience that they require. You know, talk to them. Let the communication be there. Don't block the communication. Even if we are working there, we were working prior to this pandemic as well. So the same scenario is there now. We have to uh, spend the same time with the kids and elders in the family in order to bring the mental peace in them. And trust me, when you're doing good as a parent, if you're putting ticks on all the responsibilities that you are doing, it somehow brings the kind of satisfaction and mental peace for the parents or the elders in the family as well. So it's become very crucial how to handle the kids. But it has become also a boon. It's been a year. They are more used to virtual media. They are more active on it. They know better things than us. They are, making apps and they are doing so many things. But the main pressure, I think, basically is on the parents. Elders in the family, they are also happy, enjoying learning the new skills or new apps or some new tech features. But when it comes to parents, especially working parents, I'm talking about, it has become a very monotonous kind of lifestyle for them. So my recommendation for them is to please don't cut off your diet. When you have a very fulfilling, nice, rich diet, we tend to feel very happy. So have a relaxed meal at least twice a day. One can be a little hodgepodge, but the couple of meals are to be a very good relaxed meal, especially for mothers. And take bath every day. It soothes the body, if possible, considering the conditions. Please take it couple of times. It relaxes the mind and the body. Maintain the hygiene. It's very important to maintain the hygiene because of the pandemic and for the other factors as well. By the hygiene, I'm not just concentrating on one factor, taking bath, but how we cook food, how we prepare meal, and how we serve it. So these are all become very crucial factors when it comes to the hygiene. So it's very crucial to cater for the mental health of the kids and of the middle age group and of the elders. There's one last point that I would like to add. If in the family we see there's a gradual, now there's not a sudden mental changes that are coming, the gradual mental changes that are coming. So if you are witnessing in your family somebody is talking less, somebody is not having meals properly, somebody is not taking bath, has become suddenly or gradually lethargic, not wanting to dress themselves, and the usual thing they were doing and now they are not doing, it's an indicator that needs to be catered for on priority.
I think this is a good indicator, doctor. I think what you are saying is absolutely very, very sensible, and it is a very good generic advice for everyone, every human being, whether you are a senior guy or a middle-aged person or even a kid. And you rightly pointed out that there is a department of the government which is called Skill Development Corporation of India, which is a government body, and they have tied up with IBM, and they them together are providing a lot of skills for free. There is not even a penny charged. So people, especially kids who are below 21, they can actually go and register for various skills available from Skill Development Corporation of India. Absolutely free, and I think one of the skill is a digital skill, which even the elders can join the program and acquire. So I think the only thing that I get from this conversation is to maintain mentally fit, you have to engage your mind in something new. You have to learn something new, which you have not done. Maybe you want to do carpentry. People like us can get into creating some furnitures and those kind of skills. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, CK, you just telepathically something just went into your mind, which was going in my mind. I always wanted to learn the skills of a barber. I really enjoy cutting hair, but because of some reason, everybody in the family was scared getting a haircut from me. You know, so but now it's been a year, and I am giving haircut to everyone in the family. So yes, there are so many things that we wanted to learn from our own. And this is one of the skill that I've developed recently. It's been a year now, and I really love to do it. And it's totally free of cost how I have learned it. It's just the YouTube videos that were available. So I just watched couple of them and then just tried and tested kind of thing happened. And this is how we can actually utilize some different tech channels and also channelize our energy, which is just lying like this, or the procrastination. It can be channelized into such a wonderful skill that we can develop. Let it be anything, let it be singing, let it be writing kavitaएं, poems, so many things we can do. They don't involve any cost, and in fact they actually involve the participation of the family member, which is so great. So maybe simple painting, something, some of these kind of gestures, they make you mentally engaged, physically engaged, and when they get socially appreciated, or even if the family people are appreciating it, you get socially engaged also. So all kind of mental health needs are being catered. Just getting yourself mentally occupied by learning a skill that you really wanted to learn, or if the time is demanding, or your situation is such that the kids are wanting you to learn it, it's very apt. Learning anytime make you mentally active.
Doctor, I think I would like to share one of my personal experience with you. This is like last month or maybe 40 days back. One of the light in the studio from where I'm actually speaking with you got, it basically there was no way to repair it. It actually got spoiled. So what to do? We have to create a studio light for ourselves, and then with little application of our gray matter, which is between our ears, I was able to find out what is the way out, and I converted this deliberately to engage with the kids and made it as a DIY project using the old dish antenna. Because what you actually need is to make a parabola and use that parabola to send the light waves in a parallel beams instead of scattering them like a bulb. So then, by stroke of luck, we had a couple of old dish antennas lying on the roof. We went with the kids, three of us went up and selected one of them, cleaned it, polished it, made the surface shine like a mirror, put a very a small bulb, LED light, and voila, we had a studio light up and running. And that is still, I mean, this is on this my left hand side. This light is actually giving light to my face right now. So I think what you told us today made a lot of sense. I think we need to do things as a family. I think we should also develop some games which all of us can play, kids, elders, and even the middle-aged people. So all three generations can play, sit together on a dining table and play some games. I think this is what is required. I actually learned this from you after talking to you today.
I really appreciate. There's so many things I keep on learning from you, CK, and many other friends of mine, and people who are stranger to us on media, virtual media. It's so grateful. We should be grateful to God. So my last message, CK, is to everyone: please follow the social protocols. Those are very important. Even in spite of you getting infected once in the first wave or in the second wave, please be responsible for the people who are around you. Second, please follow a very good diet. Don't do dieting, and don't be so much worried about getting couple of kgs in next 2 3 months. You will have enough of the time to lose it on. Please, but consider the comorbidity factors in this case. Follow a regime, uh, exercise pattern, some mild things, and as CK yourself very correctly mentioned, family involvement, which is no cost effective. There's no cost involved, and no time. It's so you can flexible timings can be catered for this particular activity. So great going. Please do the family activities so that you are socially, mentally, physically engaged. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you, doctor, and I will update you what games that we have invented in our next episode. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye for today and only to catch you in the next episode next week.
Thank you so much, CK. Thank you.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Aquilbank Technologies, and today I would like to give you a piece of advice, or you can say a tip, or you can say sort of an input to all my startup friends who are either starting with a new idea, or people who are actually doing incubation and coming out with new ideas. So here is my 2 cents, which is expected to help you. Now this applies to your idea as well as how you promote your idea. So one of the thing is that you always have to be original. You can get inspired by what others are doing, but when you actually talk about your own idea or your own marketing concepts, or you want to promote your offerings, etc., you have to be always original, because you may go through right now but you may be exposed later. So be confident, be original, never copy others, and while you can get inspired by any idea that you come across, but then you think out of the box and be original. So with this, this is my tip for today, and hopefully this is information which is coming from an experienced person, from your industry colleague. Hope you like it, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmak Live, and my name is Chandrakant. Today, we want to discuss something very, very specific, which is related to our world today, and how do we build relationship in the world of digital communication. That is the point of discussion for today, and we have a very special guest to discuss on this subject. Before we start our discussion, I must tell you that there is a free giveaway. Please stick around in this discussion, and we will tell you in the end how you can claim your free gift. Welcome back, friends. And today we will be discussing about how to build a relationship in the digital age. And for this discussion, we have a very special guest. His name is Mr. Mike Bradley. He is the Group CSO of RHF and Scale Up Arena, joining us from UK. So without further ado, let me invite Mike to the discussion.
Good afternoon, Chandra. Good afternoon. Good to be with you again. I trust you've had a good day.
Yes, great to see you, Mike. And as you know that we are passing through a very severe time, and as per the new norms, the India is actually growing faster, but with all this growth, there is a negative GDP of almost 7% this year. So I think we are struggling as a country. I think a lot of other countries are also struggling.
Yep.
So I think it's very important to build a digital relationship to continue survivability of business. So I think your opinion on this subject is very, very vital.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think, well, here we are as a testament to the new style of digital communication, Chandra, because over the course of the recent months, we've developed an ongoing connection and relationship without actually, unfortunately, having been able to share a mango lassi and a curry together in Delhi or in London or the south coast of England. So I think this demonstrates that actually you can build connections on a global level with people that you've not met before. And although in time past it would have been nice to have met face to face and develop the relationship and start the relationship that way, we're now in a new era where that isn't necessarily always the case. And what a good job it is, because otherwise I think the world would have collapsed economically probably, 15 months ago?
Well, I think there are some industries which are very badly hit, especially in the manufacturing side, on the hospitality, and also the transportation, travel and tourism. They are very badly hit. So I think these guys have to reinvent new ways of, generating revenue. which is
Yes.
also happening because human ingenuity is also working. But I think what more
Hmm.
can be done is something that we would like to hear from you, and also based on your global interaction, what are the best practices that people can follow in order to build digital relationships?
Yeah, well, one of the things I think is very important, and I've worked with digital comms for many years. I was, 15 years ago, I was helping to sell out this newfangled audio and web conferencing opportunity, and at the time, people were actually scared of digital, and in some industries, that was happening 18 months ago. Of course, being from a tech background, it's something I adopted, and I first was involved with online communications back in 1998 with video conferencing. Things have come on a long way since that. We're now all able and easily able to interact with each other on a digital mechanism, see each other without the old video conferencing. Phased speaking and jumbled words, etc. Our biggest challenges these days are probably the cables in the ground, which are still sort of running at 1990 bandwidth. Haven't quite kept up with multimedia. However, I think the essential part of any sort of communication is the interpersonal aspect. So I think the first rule of, if you like, digital communication is be yourself. Relax and be yourself, because ultimately people are trying to make an assessment of you, and originally that would have been, how weak is your handshake, or do they interact with me? Do they look at me when they're talking? Do they look out like this? Those same aspects apply online, and whatever made you trustworthy, convincing, credible in an offline basis also has to now be conveyed, but in a digital way. And for a lot of us, that's a new thing, okay? But it's still all about, what is it about you? What's your personal branding? I happen to have a terrible sense of humor, being English. So, humor is part of it for me. The ability to smile, the ability to be interested in the other person. These are all offline and online skills. Just because you're online doesn't mean you have to sit there like you're a television presenter or presenting the news. It's all about creating the animation, creating the rapport, the empathy, just as you would in a face-to-face meeting.
Well, I think it's a very important sermon that you have given. I'm using this as a sermon because it's literally a sermon, simply because I think there is a new skill requirement right now for everyone. You can be very senior in the industry, but if you don't have digital skills, you will not be able to build a relationship. So I would like you to also tell our viewers, what are these special skills required now in order to build relationships?
Well, I think one of them is definitely empathy. Any relationship, you need to build empathy, and maybe some of us, and I think the mechanism for that is changing. In our generation, should I say, Chandra, we were brought up to play and to interact in the physical realm. Possibly the millennials of the world, and this is very controversial, I'm sure you'll get inundated with complaints, but millennials weren't brought up to interact in the same way we did. Their interaction was done on one of these sort of like, you can't see it, but with one of these mobiles, mobiles and online. You interact with people you never met, and in a sense maybe that's a bit of an advantage because they're used to this sort of environment, and maybe it's our generation that struggled to adopt this new technology more than others. But there's still the same skill of trying to actually interact and build positive rapport with people. And I think it's very much, again, so the first thing is empathy. The important thing to build empathy is you need to have a positive communication. If you actually end up being negative, non-supportive, derogatory, dare I say, rude, disrespectful, those things do not build any sort of rapport, whether online or offline. So it's got to be about positive. I'm very much a believer in the fact that, you know, if you want to get positive environment going, you've got to create that environment, whether that be an online environment or in a meeting room or in a coffee shop. You've got to create positivity. If you're unless of course you're in a debate, and in a debate maybe you're, you know, like I did, make my statement about millennials, but I did also say they might have an advantage. But you know, within a debate, I think you've got to be able to make a statement that generates thought, challenges current thinking, groupthink. And of course, in this day and age, you've also got to be very careful in that, because there's a chance that you could be labeled incorrectly based on something taken out of context. One of my old school friends had gone on a walk on our local, you know, a bit further along the coast than this, and found a really nice location. And he put a picture on Facebook and made a statement like, "This is a great place to come, secret place. There's not many people here, etc." I replied and said, "Yeah, that looks great. Where is it?" So what did he say? He used the colloquial term, "Well, if I told you, I'd have to kill you." Now, when he said that, we know that's just a term that people use. So, "Oh, if I tell you the secret, I'd have to kill you." That's just a friendly sort of thing. But of course, Facebook called that out and actually stopped him for 24 hours posting things on Facebook. But actually, it wasn't meant as "I'm going to kill you." It's a metaphor for, you know, the type of approach. It was just a sense of humor thing. Again, maybe it's the English sense of humor, you know. But those sort of things, obviously, you've got to be careful of in the digital world. Things can be recorded, repeated. I think there was even a cricketer, you know, in India, you love your cricket. There was an English cricketer who did a very good batting job against New Zealand. I think it was at Lord's yesterday. And apparently, years ago, he tweeted something and he was actually having to call out and apologize 8 years later for something he said in his early teens at the tweet. So, you know, the impact of digital communication is phenomenal. The reach is phenomenal. The potential is phenomenal. But the potential is phenomenal from a good and a bad side. So I think it's always got to be empathetic. It's always got to be positive. But it also, you've got to be very aware that what you're trying to do and what you're going to say is a bit like putting on the front page of the India Times. You know, once it's there forever. And unfortunately, people don't always want to look at things from a positive light. So we've got to be, and I think we venture into a very serious area if we start to say, "Oh, this particular regular phrase can be misinterpreted and taken literally," because, you know, if you say the wrong word, you can get lambasted for it, even if it's quoted out of context. So I think we've got to be very careful to guard our freedoms, but use it wisely. Do you agree?
Yes, I fully agree with you. In fact, the digital skill is a completely new skill, and many people don't have it. They sometimes overdo it or sometimes underdo it. They don't. There is no balance in the communication. And you made a
No.
very important point. You know, whatever you say. In fact, there is a saying in India that if the conversation gets out of your mouth, it's not going to come back. So, and it is very true, especially in the digital space, because everything is recorded. And you also mentioned about Facebook. I think Facebook also take these things very, very seriously. And the simple things can make or break your account on the digital space, because if somebody reports that this person is spreading lies or rumors or doesn't know how to talk, or not positive, the Facebook can take action on it.
Absolutely, and it's not like, you know, a courtroom where a jury of 12 people look at it, say, well, actually, he was only joking. You know, the platform or the censoring agent will take that decision, and there's a potentially very massive impact. So you know, I think maybe in the future there's going to have to be a freedom of expression online law, which basically says, look, you know, you cannot take everything literally. You've got to understand the context. You've got to understand the person. You know, my friend is not the sort of person that goes out killing people. So, you know, he's normally surfing or skateboarding or building houses or whatever. So he's not the sort of person that is going to be actually trying to kill someone. And that needs to be reflected in the way his posts are going to be censored. And, you know, I mean, there are obviously people who do have a negative persona ongoing, do have bad objectives. And we've got to be very careful when we start censoring. You know, freedom of the press, there's freedom of expression for individuals, but so long as it doesn't incite violence and it's not in the context of that person's usual persona, then, you know, I think it's got to be proportionately reviewed.
Well, Mike, there are a lot of legal implications, as you are trying to tell our viewers, and also there are guidelines and there are regulations. And from 1st of June in India, there is very similar guidelines, similar to GDPR, are now active. So, do you think there is a global language protocol that needs to be learned by people who are using digital space?
I think it depends. And there's always going to be a percentage of people that don't want to learn it. That, like, there's a percentage of people who don't want to get vaccinated. There'll be a percentage of people who have a principal objection to being told how to behave. And I suppose in a way I'm a bit that way. But I think it again comes back to, you know, how do you build connections and communication online? It's got to be empathetic. It's got to be positive. It's also got to be prudent. And also, I think it's got to be diplomatic. At the end of the day, if your objective is to be positive, if you don't phrase it in a diplomatic way, you're going to lose a lot of people. So I think you've always got to be trying to ensure that people don't misinterpret, and they certainly don't misinterpret in the context of what's being said. Because at least then, you know, if you wade into, I mean, there's another person on my Facebook and they are always posting something up, which I think if I was dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I'd probably report it and say, actually, I don't think this is constructive or helpful for world peace. But I don't make a comment about it. I just choose to ignore it. Yeah. But it's something where, in fact, it should probably have been sanctioned by Facebook more than my friend's colloquial phraseology when I asked him where it was. And he said, oh, I don't want to tell you. Because everybody else will go there and it won't be quiet anymore. You know, so I think each individual has to make a decision as to what is empathetic, what is positive, what is actually going to enable us to build connections and communication in a positive way. And to do that, you've got to always have in mind, again, if this was on the front page of the India Times or the BBC News, would I actually want this to be published? And if the answer to that is no, then don't say it, because it's, the sad thing is, and for me, there are some really serious subjects of debate that need to be openly discussed, but they're not debated and they're not raised because there's this rather unfortunate labeling which occurs, which if you say something, there'll be one person who comes along and says, he's anti-X or she's anti-this because they said that. And that's probably not the case at all. But if you took that one phrase on its own, you would say, oh, that's the wrong thing to say. They should be censured. They should have their account stopped. They should do this. They should do that. So I think there's very much got to be a realization of that. And again, on video conferences, if there's a topic thrown out for discussion, you always have to ensure, particularly if it's a bigger group, you always have to ensure that you're being sensible and positive and diplomatic about the way you handle it. I mean, we've had calls where there's quite a few people on, and the idea is, I think, to keep the positive flowing, keep the empathy building, let people see the true you, but in a positive light, because that's how you build relationships. And I think that's really great in this day and age that we are, several thousand miles, kilometers apart, building rapport, building relationships, able to trade, help each other sell, support each other, because actually it's a tough world out there and we need to work together. And the only way to work together in this day and age is with effective digital communications.
I think communication is very, very important to build any relationship, and positive communication is absolutely important. But in the olden days, like 1 year away, where people used to say that you have to look presentable when you go for meetings, you have to be suited, booted, and all that. All that is changing now, but I think new norms are coming. And to look presentable on this 2D screen, it's a very tough job. You have to read the expression of the other person, and it creates another technical scenario where you have to have the right amount of lights, camera, and action. So do you think that's a skill that needs to be learned in addition to better communication?
I think so. I think, to be honest, though, that's an area where the tools themselves actually could do more. And I think in the future, for example, we look at the screen now, there are ways that the technology could improve the saturation and the picture quality, and using, technology to make sure that the best possible presentation is available. As we know, we can put a backdrop on, and sometimes when you've got hair like mine, it sort of looks like it's floating in the air somewhere. But that stuff can all be a bit like with headsets, where you can have noise cancellation. I think you can also have refinement of the picture and the broadcast quality of what is being shown here. And I think that's where improvements will come in the future. Funny enough, I saw one of these polls on LinkedIn the other day saying, is post-pandemic, what's going to happen to usage on Zoom? Is it going to disappear? Is it going to keep going up? Is it going to be, I think the word was hybrid but declining slightly, it was hybrid and increasing. I actually think that there'll be a bit of a dip in usage, because what will happen is people, after 15 months of not being able to face-to-face can go, oh, thank goodness I can go meet Chandra and have a curry and a mango lassi. And so we'll do that. And then we'll say, well, actually, it was really great, but much as we like each other, we don't need to meet every week. So we'll meet face to face. We'll have, I don't know, a meal, a coffee, a meeting when's convenient. And after that, it will be, well, yeah, we'll continue doing our digital communication the majority of the time. And then in 4 months' time, when I next come to Delhi, we meet each other and we have another chat. So I think there's going to be this new world of hybrid, which is going to be a mix of mainly online and occasional offline. Particularly as, and I've been talking to other contacts of mine, and they've been saying, I don't want to go back to chasing around the world or chasing around the country trying to talk to people face to face. I've been able to manage my communications quite happily online. I don't want to be traveling all the time now. And the only winners of traveling, of course, are the transport companies, the trains. And in the case of the UK, dare I again controversially say it, people like the RMT who can insist on having strikes and upsetting everybody's commuting schedule, they're the ones who've lost their power. It has been a long time since the RMT has had a strike. Thank you very much. Long may that continue, because travel was taking an awful lot of everybody's time, money, inconvenience, quality of life. The place you had to live had to be near enough to the city or to the office to be able to get there every day. What a waste of time that was, And I think now we've got more. Most of us have got more cash in our pockets because we're not spending thousands a year on travel. We've got more time to enjoy that money that we do work for. We've got more time to spend it on goods and services, which might also help recover the GDP negatives. Because actually what we don't want to be doing is spending all our money pouring it into the train companies. We'd be far better spending that on SME products and services. Buy local. Buy from your friendly SME, whether they be national or international.
Well, absolutely. And the digital presence actually breaks the boundary and makes more lasting relationships. And that brings me to the third point of any communication which is digital, I think, is a story which takes you along. So, is there a skill required to build the right synopsis, right type of story where you want to communicate with people so that people listen to you? Is it important in digital world or not? What is your opinion?
Well, I think a story is always important. Simplicity is the key. Complexity is confusing. But people relate to a story. If you can take them on the journey from start to finish, then you're probably more likely to have them with you at the end of it. That doesn't mean it's got to be 20 minutes long. It means it's got to be succinct. It's got to be accurate. It's got to be endorsable or endorsed, supported. And then I think there's a very good, well, it's always a good way to convey a message, always has been, whether it be to a room full of delegates or whether it be to a virtual meeting full of delegates. The ability to convey a message short and succinct. I'm infamous for my alliteration. I didn't use it today, but I now start to come out with alliterative groups of phrases and words, which I use them because it helps, well, apart from anything else, helps me to remember the story. But also I think it helps other people sometimes to pick up a story. If they can just remember 3 words of the same letter, they might just, catch on to that.
Well, Mike, there is one more very important aspect of digital communication, and that is the sort of related to the mental health issues. So that particular subject is a very large subject, and we are not discussing that today. But I think whatever you have covered today with regard to these 3 points, which are the basics of communication in the digital space, is like maintain your language in a proper way, which is global in nature, and you don't use any colloquial, proverbs which people don't understand, and keep it simple, make a nice story, and also get technical knowledge in terms of controlling your camera, lights, so that you look presentable. So thank you so much, Mike, for sharing your thoughts on this very, very important, very, very hot subject in today's world.
Been a pleasure, Chandra, as always.
Thank you, Mike, and we will catch up next week as usual and probably discuss something more interesting.
Okay, look forward to it.
We have some unique Akulmek memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmak gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmak and smash that like button.
Hello, welcome to Akulmek Live, and today in this series of Delhi Sultanate, we will be discussing about one of the king, Balban. But before that, we would like to welcome our guest today. She is Meeta Joshi, and she is an eminent historian, and she is head of the department of one of the prestigious college in Hyderabad. So let's welcome her. Hi, ma'am. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Namaskar, Kanchan. I am fine. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, and as usual, it is so interesting to talk to you about the great kings. And today we are talking about Delhi Sultanate, and the eminent emperor is Balban. So, what is that important in when we turn the pages of history? Where we can place Balban?
See, Balban is considered to be one of the most renowned sultans of the so-called slave dynasty or Mamluk dynasty. He was an Ilbari Turk, and the time when he came to the throne after Iltutmish, because after Iltutmish, his son came to the throne, but then he was dethroned and Balban came to the throne in 1266 AD. So the time period from 1266 to 1287 AD was the time when Balban ruled Delhi Sultanate. And the most important thing about his rule is he adopted the policy of blood and iron. Before him, no one did that. After him, no one did that. It was only Balban who adopted this blood and iron policy. So what was this blood and iron policy? He understood this very, very clearly, that if he wants to strengthen his empire, then he should have a very good army. So the first thing what he did is he reorganized his army. Okay, because he understood that army was the basis of any rule. And since he was an autocratic ruler, so he understood the importance of a good army. So he paid attention to the reorganization of army, and he appointed various officers to monitor it, to appoint good soldiers in the army. He himself held the supreme command of the army in his own hands, and his Diwan-e-Aris did not enjoy the actual command, because actually Diwan-e-Aris was the person who was the commander, but he took the lead in his own hands. He motivated his soldiers, he motivated his army. Then, prior to his accession, before Balban came to throne, his predecessors, Qutbuddin Aibak and Iltutmish, they never paid uh, salaries to their army officers in cash. Okay, land grants were given to them, which is known as ICTA system, a piece of land, and then whatever revenue comes from that land, you take out your expenses from that land. So this was a defective system earlier. What Balban did, he put them on rolls and he started giving them salaries in cash. So people were interested because they were getting cash in hand. So their household was taken care of. And then what he did, he the old people who were in army, he retired them, but he gave pension to them. So that way they were also happy because a pension was given to them. And the old men and the orphans whose suppose the soldiers, they got martyred in the battleground, to them also he gave the pension. So this one system he first restored. Second thing what he did, he first of all tried to maintain law and order in the capital, and the capital was Delhi. He made sure that the people of Delhi who were really afraid because of the foreign invasions which were happening again and again. So he, with the reorganization of army, he assured the people that you will be taken care of. This was one thing. Then he, first of all, he never wanted to expand. What he thought, whatever empire he has, let him restore it in a proper way. Let him strengthen it in a proper way. And for that, what he did, he appointed a system of spies, the espionage system. So anything, whatever is wrong in the empire, those spies came and informed Balban personally. So whatever discrepancies were there, they were rectified. Okay. And then what he did was he destructed the group of nobles. Turkan-e Chihalgan. Iltutmish appointed this Turkan-e Chihalgan. They were a group of 40 nobles who interfered in the administration time and again. So what he did, Balban, what he did, he first of all destructed this group of 40 and he took the lead, took the charge in his own hands. Okay. Another thing, very interesting thing about Balban is he believed in the theory of kingship. What he believed, that if you are a monarch, that means you are blessed by God. Okay, he used to say, Niyabat e Khudai. It is the blessing of the God. So the king is the representative of God on earth. So he has to behave like one. So what he did, he became very serious. He stopped talking to people. His court was such that it was full of pomp and show. His throne was placed like above the ground with all glittery cloths on the background embedded with jewels. And he always dressed himself in a royal robe in which you cannot see any of his body parts. Even his servants who were his attendants, they never saw Balban half dressed. Every time he was dressed in that robe with gloves and the headgear, the crown. And the discipline of his court was such that no one was allowed to even smile. Everybody has to be serious. Plus, till Balban is in court, no one can sit. Everyone has to stand. he also introduced two systems in his court, that was sajda and paibos. Sajda was prostration in front of the emperor. Paibos was kissing the feet of the emperor. So these were Persian customs. So he revived those customs in his court. And whenever he went out of his court, he had like escorts, very tall, well built, dark, furious people. And whenever he went out of the court, they used to lead him shouting Bismillah, Bismillah, and our long live our king. So this theory of kingship is very, very peculiar about Balban, because if you see the entire Delhi Sultanate, starting from slave dynasty till Lodi dynasty, no sultan apart from Balban practiced theory of kingship and practiced the policy of blood and iron. So these are very peculiar things which define Balban.
Well, you mentioned about how it was so important, and it was for him to be visible in a very entirely pomp and show, and it should give a feeling of that. Here's the king. I've also heard that his crown and his whole face, when he used to dress up, it was, I think, it looks like quite long compared to other emperors of the world. So that is also very, very peculiar for this king. What was the duration of his period, his rule?
His rule was from 1266 to 1287 AD, Kanchan. Quite a long rule in which he organized his army. Then he did few conquests, like conquest of Bengal was there, and in between there was a Mongol invasion. So during his reign, Mongols appeared on the northwest frontier and they established their sway in Lahore. So Balban tried to subdue them also, the Mongols. And apart from this, he was a patron of arts and literature, and because he himself was a learned man and he was very fond of music also, so he gave shelter to many literary personalities and awarded liberal grants to them for the development of education and literature. So not only a king, but he was doing these works also. And one more thing about him, he never expressed himself in front of anyone, neither joy nor sorrow. Because in one of the incidents, his son passed away, okay? And his son's name was, just a minute, Muhammad, I think. So when that news came, Balban was so serious that he did not even show his grief in front of his court. Though one of the slaves later, he said that he cried very bitterly in his room, but outside he never expressed any emotion, whether it was sorrow, whether it was grief, because again, he believed that king was the representative of God on earth. So he has to be, respectable, because people look up to the God. Same way people look up to the king. All these things are very, very peculiar about him. Another thing, he was a despot. His rule was despotic, that is for sure. And he told one of his sons, his name was Bughra Khan, he told his son that kingship is the embodiment of despotism. So this is a statement he gave to his son, and he said he was not answerable to anyone when he is a sultan. When he is a sultan, only person whom he is answerable is God. So that way he to prove his claim that he was from divine origin, and because God is divine, so he said kings are divine too. And he said that he was a descendant of Afrasiab dynasty, though he was an Ilbari Turk. And in order to maintain that, he gave up drinking, he cut off from the jovial company of his courtiers, maintained an aloofness, and stopped meeting the common people. And in his court, no common people was allowed. Like in one of the statements, he said his blood boils when he sees a commoner. So only nobles in his court. No commoner was allowed in his court, not a single one. So we're very peculiar. He had a hatred for the people who were low born, like who were not nobles, commoners. He hated them.
Well,
So
when we going forward, because we also count Balban as into a slave dynasty, right? So when we go forward, I think from Qutbuddin Aibak to Balban, I think he is the first king who we can count him as somebody who established a kingship and established a rule in a proper way. What is your opinion?
yes, you can say that, because the divine theory of kingship which he practiced, so he made himself, above the rest by practicing that divine theory of kingship. And that way he enhanced the splendor, power, prestige of the crown, and forced the people, the nobles and the amirs to obey him. Earlier, at the time of Iltutmish, the 40 were very powerful. Turkan-e-Chihalgan, that group of 40 was very powerful, and they interfered in all activities of administration. But in time of Balban, no one had the courage to even speak in front of him. So that he established, yes.
So what is now when we look forward, what how we can really feel or we can discuss the impact of his rule further, more in the years to come?
See, he established a despotic rule, okay? And after him, because he was an autocratic despot, I must say. So after him, his legacy, other people could not carry forward. Like his successor, after his death, Kekubad came to the throne. And after Kekubad, Nizamuddin was there. So Kekubad was assassinated, and slowly there was a downfall of the slave dynasty. So whatever he did, people could not carry it forward, because he was really serious about his work. He was really serious about strengthening the power and prestige of the crown, which before him no one did, which after him no one did in slave dynasty. Because after him, the downfall of slave dynasty started, because no successor was as able as Balban to carry the legacy forward. And after,
As a historian, how you will rate Balban, and how further people should rate him as a emperor of Delhi?
see, I should say that he was a very brave soldier and an able commander. Okay, he was a competent administrator too, because he strengthened the power of kingship, number one. Number two, he strengthened the Delhi Sultanate by reorganizing the army, by establishing his monopoly over the Sultan of Delhi for about 40 years. It's not a joke to rule for 40 long years. So he did that. And during this long period, he strengthened and organized the Sultanate by his policies. As I told you, the policy of blood and iron, the theory of kingship, the conquests which he did. So all together, if you sum up, though he had shortcomings because he hated common people, that is the biggest shortcoming, because when you are a king, you have to see everyone equally. But this discrimination he made, that no commoners were allowed near him or near his court. So, in spite of his weaknesses and defects, whatever he had, Balban deserves to be ranked among the greatest sultans of Delhi Sultanate due to his policies and works.
Well, it was so interesting to talk to you and discuss this interesting emperor of Delhi Sultanate, and I'm sure that the viewers must have got an insight of this person. Maybe people may not be knowing about his kinship and the kind of person he was. So as usual, it was so great to talk to you, ma'am. We'll be discussing further about Delhi Sultanate. Till then, bye-bye and you take care.
Thank you, Panch.
Hey, what's up friends? Welcome to Akul Mac Live, and my name is Chandrakant. And today I would like to talk about the new scrappage policy, vehicle policy, which Government of India has announced recently. And I've gone through the entire policy. I tried to understand the whole thing first before I actually start bringing the hidden secrets about this policy. And this show will be very interesting because people who love cars are largely affected by this policy, and I'll tell you exactly why. Before we start discussing more about this, there is a word from our sponsors.
This video is sponsored by Performance Works International.
Are you ready for the challenges facing the modern workplace? Recent events have taught us the importance of transformation. Businesses now face a perfect storm of challenges. No business is too big to fail, and many are too slow to succeed. Our workforce is changing fast. We're entering a new age of empowerment, and everyone can contribute. The Inner CEO reveals how we can all play a part in making leading at all levels a reality. Written by Jeremy Blaine, an expert on business transformation and growth, it provides a roadmap to help everyone unleash their inner CEO and contribute beyond their job role, whatever their level. Traditionally, strategy has been owned by the few. Now it's time for the many to contribute. Leadership must come from a broader base. Everyone has the potential to step up and make things happen. It's a new model of collective and collaborative leadership which unleashes the power of people, enabled by appropriate technology and a supportive management structure. The book provides a roadmap for a bold new age of empowerment. Supported by a range of resources, the book provides a toolkit to help anyone unleash their inner CEO. Organisation health, development and growth is owned at all levels. Are you ready to unleash the inner CEO?
Hey, welcome back, friends. So, Inner CEO is a book that you must read, and if you are actually in a profession or any business or solopreneur, I think this book is going to give you a lot of ideas. The description to book your copy today is in the link is given in the description, and we will start our topic. Before we start, I must tell you that we are live right now on 5 social media platforms, and you can engage with us. Any questions you might have, you can just use the chat function, and it will reach to us directly, and I will respond by taking your name. So it's a pity, India never had a scrappage policy, and if you remember those days where, including myself, you get up in the morning and start cleaning your car. Even if there is a smallest dirt on the mirror of your car, you just want to get rid of that grease and get rid of that. And if there is a small dent on the car, or some sort of a dent on the car, then you don't want to sleep. You have a sleepless night. So I think that is where the lot of people who love cars will get affected with this scrappage policy. And what is the scrappage policy and why it is so important for us? Number one is that the scrappage policy will allow you to take the next leap. And when we say that it's a next leap, it's basically you use your vehicle on the road as a mode of transport rather than a mode of pride, like all of us used to feel, my car is like 20 years old, my car is 30 years old, and so on, and still it is running and it is shining and all that. So all those things we want to move on from and adapt new technologies, adapt new ways of transportation, and that is why this scrap policy has been brought in. And it is going to be helping a lot of Indians. It is going to start a circular economy. I will explain one by one all of these items. First of all, as part of the scrappage policy, there are 2 distinctions. One is commercial and government vehicles, and the second distinction is the private vehicles. So if you're running a commercial transport business, heavy vehicles, or you are working with the government and the government department is running those vehicles, so those are 2 broader classification. And since it is estimated that the government and commercial vehicles are used more than the private vehicles, because private vehicles are used only when a family wants to get out or you personally want to get out of your home or office, then it is used only for you. Whereas commercial and government vehicles are used for variety of purposes. So the scrappage policy defines that now you will be able to run government and commercial vehicle only for 15 years. And after 15 years, you need to re-register your vehicle. And when you go for re-registration of your vehicle, you have to go and get the inspection done about the fitness. So if your vehicle is fit, you can still continue re-register your vehicle with the authorities and continue to use it. But I think it's unlikely that you will be able to show that the vehicle is new, because if it is 15 years old, it's going to be old. The second thing is, for the private vehicle owners, the limit is 20 years. So you can actually use your car for 20 years, and if your car is fit enough to ply on the road, you can take a fitness certificate, get your car re-registered, and then still use it. And there are further classification that how much for how many years you can use this old vehicle. So I think first thing that we need to understand is 15 years for commercial and government vehicles and 20 years for private vehicles, and that is a free limit. Now when you go for scrapping it, there will be a lot of scrape outlets. You can go to the nearest one which is going to be set up, in next 2 years, and then the scrap yard will actually give you 4 to 6% of your vehicle price, market price, for scrapping it. So suppose you have an old vehicle, you proceed you decide to scrap it, you go to the nearest scraping point, and the scrap yard will give you 4 to 6% of the vehicle's value back to you. So you actually gain 4 to 6%. And in addition to giving you the value of the vehicle, they will also give you a certificate that you have voluntarily decided to scrap your old vehicle, and here is a certificate along with the 4 to 6% of the value of the car. Now you take that certificate and then obviously want to buy a new car. So when you buy a new car, you have to buy the car and then re-register the car with the authorities, and the registration fee, there will be a discount of 25% for private owners. Suppose you are buying a private car for your own personal use, there is a 25% discount or reduction in the fee if you show the scrap certificate. So it is important that you get your old vehicle scrapped, get the certificate, get about 4 to 6% of the old car's value, get a discount in registration fees up to 25%, and if you're government, you will get 15%, or government or commercial. So you get 25% discount over there, and then if you show the same certificate to the manufacturer of the car, a new car, they will give you additional allowance of 5% discount on the new car. So I think these are win-win for everybody. People will tend to use newer technology, newer vehicles, things like electric vehicles, things like more automated vehicles, vehicles which can be controlled using your mobile devices, etc., with latest features. And there is no reason to use the older vehicle and spend a lot of money. So get the older vehicle scrapped, get value out of it, get a certificate from the scrap yard, go to buy a new car, go to the showroom and get 5% discount on the value of the new car, as well as 25% discount on the registration fee of the car. Now when it comes to the road tax, on a new car there will be zero road tax. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. This is going to start a new era because of this a simple scrap policy of Indian government. Most of the Indian will benefit because they will get better discount on adopting newer technologies, newer vehicles for themselves, mostly electric vehicles, which will be cheaper to run, cheaper to operate. There is no maintenance after 6 months or 1 month or whatever, because in commercial it is a monthly maintenance, and in a private it's like 6 months or 1 year. Electric cars does not require maintenance regularly. The maintenance cycle is 3 years. So you will actually go ahead and get discounted price on a newer car, and you run the electric vehicles at a lower cost, and that will save a lot of money for India. Why? Because India don't have to spend their foreign exchange, which is they can save foreign exchange reserves, and they don't have to spend that money in buying crude oil from oil producing countries, because if more and more Indians adapt to electric mode of transportation, there is no need to buy expensive crude oil from outside. So there is going to be a lot of benefit as a nation we will get. And India is such a large country, if even if 50% population move on to electric vehicles, there's going to be huge saving in terms of foreign exchange. Number two is that we will actually lead the way globally, because we are almost like 20 to 25% of the global population. So we will lead the way of showing to the world that how we can bring environment change. by adapting the newer ways of transportation, we can actually have the latest vehicles with latest technologies and also benefit the environment. So we will save the environment. We will actually add new ways of doing business. We can save the foreign exchange by just this policy which the government of India has announced recently. By the way, for the commercial vehicles, the policy will be activated in 2023, and for personal vehicles it will be activated in 2024. So we still have time, but I think it is a very important step, because I think by changing a small policy, it will change the way we actually approach our transport infrastructure, roads, etc., and vehicles, and a dependency on fossil fuel. We actually move towards adapting newer methods, and it will also start more boost to electric car manufacturing agencies. It will also give there'll be new scrap yards for specialized in scrapping your car, older vehicles. And once this whole thing becomes very smooth and running, then it will become a system. Every 5 years, 5 to 6 years, the technology will be replaced. You will have a newer car. India will move ahead at a much faster rate. You get your old vehicle, which will be in millions, scrapped, and get your new car, and you always drive the latest model. So friends, this is something which is quite important, and it's a groundbreaking change for Indian population, and it is happening after 75 years of independence. So now we can start changing the environment that we are in. We have a large population to support. I think it's very important for all of us to embrace this new policy and get ready to get our old car. However, we are in love with our car. We all love our cars. We don't want our car to be scratched. But I think intelligence is to get our old car scrapped, get all the benefits that the government is giving you, get the extra allowances, get the extra discounts, get the extra subsidy which is available on electric vehicles, and at a cheaper cost run your vehicle, which will be good for environment. So friends, with this I will end my video. Before I go, I have to talk about the sponsor of this video, which is Performance Works International. The book called Inner CEO, you must have it, and you can go down in the description. The link is in the description to register your copy or book your copy. And by the way, the audiobook is free. The ebook is only for $3. So with this, I will end for today and meet you in the next video, my friends. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmac Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. Today, I would like to inform you about the science of immunology and what is the contribution of India as a country or India as a civilization to the mankind. You know, like we are going through a pandemic, it's a global catastrophe, and we are taking precautions. We are staying in-house in our homes to remain protected, because we don't have a solution against the pandemic. But this is not the first time that mankind has seen this kind of a situation. It has happened in the past. In fact, the more popular or more devastating pandemics are well known. There are chickenpox, smallpox, plague, and up to a certain extent polio also, which used to affect the infant and toddlers. But today in India, we ran a successful program and we eradicated all these, at least these known pandemics. But I think I would be wrong to say that we have eradicated them, because this was going on even in the past. when the chickenpox used to get, and it also spreads like the coronavirus that spreads, it spreads by human touch. So if some person gets infected with, say, chickenpox or smallpox, the humans started observing that, what happens if one guy who has, say, chickenpox, and if he survives that disease for the rest of his life, he will never get it. So it's a power of observation that when they started observing it, they realized that because one time if somebody gets infected with that disease, for the rest of their life, that person becomes immune to that disease because the body itself developed the antidote and will not allow that disease to come back again. So in other words, the resilience of the body increases. So this was the observation, and obviously when humans, ancient humans, were seeing this, they would have done some experiment. So the experiments done were, they take the virus out from, in chickenpox there used to be small blisters on the skin, and the concentration of the viruses which are affecting, which are responsible for that disease, are found in that, on those blisters. So you take that blisters out from that, which is very infectious, material, and give it to a healthy man, and infecting the healthy man. Now, by doing this permutation combination, we have no record of what was going on, but by doing this permutation combination, the humans, ancient humans, realized that if we give the this disease to a certain person in limited quantity, in certain less quantity, so the person will get infected, but the body will fight that infection, and then the person is sort of inoculated for rest of the life. So he will not fully fall sick. He will probably be, he will get a fever for a day or so, and then body will fight because the infection is given in a limited quantity, and then the person is inoculated for life for that disease. So this is like an ancient knowledge which humans gathered, and they were able to come out with a solution. Now, this particular knowledge which they got is was kept very as a closely guarded secret. It was not known to a lot of people, and in fact, in India there is a written documentation almost like 1,000 years back about this. So, for how long this was being practiced, we have no idea. The assumption is it could have been more than 2,000 years old science, and in modern world we call it immunology. So now there's a lot of talk about finding a vaccine for the coronavirus, and a lot of conversation going on about immunology. But this is not something new. This was going on for quite some time. And only mistake Indians did it, that it was kept as a secret to the high priest only, and it was passed through generation to generation. In fact, the high priest, or the person who was actually who knew this knowledge, how much uh, disease to be introduced in a healthy person in order to inoculate, were being called to Middle East, to Syria, to China, and eventually this knowledge reached China, and from China and India, this knowledge reached the rest of the world. So this is so amazing. When I was reading about this, and when I was trying to do research before I started making this video, it was so amazing that the human ingenuity is so vast, and it's not something which is related to the modernness or the modern sciences that we see. This was already known from 2,000 years back, and the humans were working on the immune system even without the modern medical systems being available. Even today, the modern science have no answer to this pandemic. What we are also speculating that some people will have, uh, natural ability to fight the infection which is caused by the virus. But we don't have data to back that up, so I will not talk about that. Now I will talk. So this is one information which I thought I'll pass on, where The immunology is it's not a new science. It's been there. The knowledge of how much and how to do this is already present, at least in certain civilizations like India and Chinese civilization. But I would like to draw another attention, which is more recent. India got independence in 1947, but these issues were there. You know, a lot of people were dying of chicken pox and smallpox because this knowledge was sort of lost because we were ruled by the British, and then before that there were a lot of invasions which were going on. So this knowledge was lost. So a lot of people were dying, a lot of infants were dying, and there were a lot of pandemics in India. So the Indian government decided that they want to fight these pandemics, and they decided to launch a very strong, very well organized programs in the 60s. So a lot of inoculation happened. In fact, uh, in 60s and onwards, the inoculation used to happen door to door. The medical officers used to go and each houses and inoculate people so that they don't get that infection. So 60s there was inoculation. In fact, the technology of giving these inoculation was very primitive because they had to inoculate thousands and thousands of people because India has a lot of people. So people who got inoculated in 60s and 70s have the scars on their arm because that inoculation used to leave a scar. But after that, the government created a complete plan. The population today, which is born after 1980s, do not have those scars because now it is more advanced, and there is a complete roadmap when the child is born. Up to 12 years or 15 years, there is a complete roadmap of how many shots the child has to be given. So now, in fact, every children that is born after 60 in India is covered by these inoculations. So while we are searching for the cure for the pandemic, but the Indians, because we ran a very methodical and well organized plan, the Indian people, Indian government, right from 60s, they had beaten all these deadly pandemics. So is there a inherent resistance to such diseases which are similar to flu and corona in Indians? We don't know. I'm just saying that Indians may be less affected by this, but we don't have any proof because the Indian people have gone through various inoculations as a mandatory exercise after 1960. Now let's talk about Iran. Iran is very badly affected. There are so many deaths. In fact, some people are saying that Iran is not revealing their numbers. So I will not get into that part. But Iran is very badly affected, even though they also had the inoculation program, a very well-defined inoculation program. But the only problem is they started their inoculation in 1984, starting with BCG and some of the other things. So their plan uh, took took in effect or basically effective from 1984 onwards. So anyone who's born after 1984 has those inoculations in and out. So the people who are dying in Iran are basically people who did not go through the inoculation. So the older people, middle-aged people who did not have the protection of the inoculation, are the infection of corona is more severe on them than as compared to people who are born after 1984. Then there are certain countries who do not have such programs because they have some of the countries have not seen these pandemics, unlike India and the Southeast Asia, where these malaria and all these things are very common. Some of the other countries who do not see these things, again, the corona or this particular COVID-19 is deadly for those countries who do not have the inoculation program against these diseases. So I'm just making an assumption. I'm not making any, I'm not making a theory. I'm just saying that these are the symptoms because none of us have these symptoms. Doctors are trying to build a medical data about how the things are, how the graph, we are talking about flattening the graph. So this is basically a medical term. But I'm just saying what I've learned after doing this study about why it is affecting certain category of people more than other category. And this is what I thought as my analytics. I thought I'll bring it to you. And with this, I will end this video, but I would like to get your comments and I would like to get your participation, get your feedback. What do you think? Does it make any sense what I have just said, or you have any of your own theory, which I would like to hear from you? Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmac Technologies, and today I would like to share a piece of advice, or you may even say it's a tip, which I will give it to you, especially when you are a startup CEO or you are a marketing head. So here is a tip which I want to share with everyone. The tip is that whenever we come across an idea or we want to talk about or market our idea, we have to be authentic and we have to be original. So when we come across a lot of other people doing a lot of innovative things, we may get inspired by those people, their efforts, etc. But when we talk, we actually don't copy their ideas. We have to improvise and come out with something original and authentic. Why I'm saying this? Because this is very, very important. Because if you are authentic, it will be very important for you to defend and not discard your own idea when you are questioned about your own solution or offerings. So it is very important to be authentic and be original to be successful in life. So with this tip, I will end this video, and hopefully this advice may be useful for you. And just drop a message if just in case if you want to have any further discussion with me in terms of any guidance or any further tips that you may need. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Morning, friends. Welcome to Akulmac Live, and I'm Chandrakant. Uh, as we speak, there is a Indo-US military operation, sort of an exercise is underway high up in the Himalayas, and this is happening somewhere on the border, the LAC. So the interesting fact is that there are 300 soldiers from 350 to be precise from India and 300 soldiers from the airborne from the US, and they are actually playing the part of practicing the art of war uh, in the Himalayas, and more so at very, very high altitude. So this is right now going on, and the interesting fact about this particular event is that this is now dubbed as Yudh Abhyas, which is happening in the Himalayas, as I said, and it is also hashtag as Yudh Abhyas. And as you can see in this picture, the American soldiers and Indian soldiers, as part of ice breaking, played kabaddi. And this is you can see there is so much cold and there's so much snow over there, and they are playing kabaddi, and they also played American football and volleyball. And I think this is a very good icebreaker because when the two nations are coming together, and the partnership between soldiers have to develop, I think the sports are the best mechanism. And kabaddi being a very, very demanding sport, so the Americans actually played kabaddi with full zeal, and they tried to understand the rules of the game. And if you if you are an Indian, you would know what is kabaddi, but for the benefit, I'm just repeating, kabaddi can be traced back to prehistoric times in India. It was a sport which is played equally in women, as among the women team, men team. And the origin of kabaddi is that you need to hold your breath till the time you are in that act.
So, and you have to be fast, you have to be strong, you have to be swift. These are very taxing requirement of playing kabaddi, and you have to holding your breath. So this is basically to increase the alertness, physique, holding your breath, and performing against all odds. And the whole game is that if you break your breath and you start breathing again, you have lost it. So the all action in kabaddi as a game is played while holding your breath, and you have to perform all activities like jumping, wrestling, running, all by holding your breath. So that is why this is so interesting information, and I thought I'll bring this to you. Stay tuned to this Yudh Abhyas, which is happening high up in the Himalayas, a joint army exercise, US and India, and I think to increase the partnership with our soldiers. So, friends, I always look forward to your comments, and even for this one, I look forward to your comments and suggestions. I will catch you in the next one. Hello, friends. Welcome to Akul Mac Live. My name is Chandrakant. Today, we will discuss about something which might be affecting some of us, and that is the credit card bills. And this is happening because of the economy not doing too well during pandemic, and the small scale industry is specifically hit by this cash flow issue, and some of us may be missing out the bill cycle simply because we don't have cash to pay. And because of this issue, the some of us are also getting these unwarranted calls from the credit card companies, and also unpleasant visits and conversation happening with the representative of these credit card companies. So today's discussion is about what are the legal remedies available to us to protect ourselves, and how do we get out of this debt trap. So we will start our discussion, but before that, there is a giveaway in our program today. We will learn more about it in a bit. Akul Mac works with many SMEs and startups world over, helping them in not only building their sales and marketing teams, but also help them in improving their success rate. As you can see, we have summarized our years of knowledge into these easy to follow steps, which can be used by any smart leader to promote their group or a company. In order to encourage people to take the right step at the right time, we have used this proprietary graph in our corporate memorabilia so that the knowledge can be accessed by whoever, whenever, wherever it is needed. You can become eligible to get one of these beautiful gifts delivered to your doorstep for free. All you need to do is to subscribe our channel and smash that like button. Also, please watch this entire video and provide your valuable comments, suggestions, or you could also share your experiences. Person with the best comment and interaction would be chosen to become a free recipient of one of these displayed items here. In addition, we would invite you to Akul Mac Live to participate in our show as a distinguished panelist. What are you waiting for, friends? Go for it. Now, let's get back to our discussion. Friends, let me introduce our guest today. He is joining us from Ahmedabad.